I've lived in this small Ukrainian village all my life. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where news spreads faster than the wind through the fields. But in a life as quiet as mine, the days blur together. Each one feels like the last, marked by routines and the slow, steady progression of my illness. I have a rare condition called fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, FOP. It's hard to explain, even harder to live with. My body is slowly turning to bone. Muscles, tendons, ligaments, everything that should move freely is calcifying, locking me in place. It started when I was a child. My neck couldn't twist properly, and my toes were bent at odd angles. My parents thought it was just a phase, something I'd grow out of. But the doctors gave us a different answer. There's no cure, they said. No treatment. As a little girl, I didn't fully understand what that meant. But as I grew, the reality became painfully clear. By the time I was a teenager, my arms had begun to freeze in place. Now, at 29, even simple tasks, brushing my hair, tying my shoes, are impossible without help. Walking is slow, deliberate, and exhausting. My caregiver comes every morning to help me bathe, dress, and eat, leaving me alone for the rest of the day. It's not much of a life, but it's mine. I fill my days with painting, reading, and tending my little garden. Those are the things that keep me sane. Still, there are moments when the loneliness feels unbearable, when the walls of my small house feel like they're closing in. I've learned to live with that too. And then Ivan knocked on my door. It was a warm spring afternoon, and I was sitting by the window, watching the first blossoms of the season. When I heard the knock, I assumed it was my caregiver returning for something she'd forgotten. But when I opened the door, there he was, a tall, scruffy young man with kind eyes and a slightly crooked smile. He held a paper bag filled with groceries. "Maria?" he asked, glancing at the list in his hand. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "I'm Ivan," he said. "I'm volunteering with the delivery program. They said you needed help with groceries." I nodded, stepping aside to let him in. He set the bag on the counter and began unpacking it, chatting as he worked. His voice was warm and friendly, and I found myself smiling despite my usual shyness. When he was finished, he turned to me with a grin. "If you need anything else, just let me know." I thanked him, thinking that would be the last I'd see of him. But it wasn't. Over the next few weeks, Ivan kept coming back. At first, it was just to deliver groceries. Then he started staying longer, chatting with me in the doorway or helping me carry things inside. One day, he noticed the broken latch on my garden gate and offered to fix it. Another time, he replaced a loose tile on my roof. Before I knew it, he was spending hours at my house, fixing little things and finding ways to make my life easier. At first, I didn't know what to make of him. Why would a young, healthy man like Ivan spend so much time helping someone like me? But the more I got to know him, the more I realized he wasn't like most people. He didn't look at me with pity or discomfort. He treated me like a person, like I mattered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ivan stayed late to help me plant flowers in my garden. We sat on the porch afterward, sipping tea and watching the stars appear in the sky. "You know," he said, his voice soft, "you're incredible, Maria." I laughed, shaking my head. "Incredible? Hardly." "I mean it," he insisted. "Most people would have given up in your position. But you keep going. You paint, you garden, you laugh. You find joy in the little things. That's incredible." His words left me speechless. I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled and thanked him. But deep down, I felt something stir, something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Ivan became a regular part of my life after that. He was always finding excuses to visit, bringing me flowers, or fixing something that didn't really need fixing. He made me laugh with his silly jokes and warmed my heart with his endless patience. Slowly, I began to realize I was falling for him. But with that realization came fear. How could someone like Ivan love someone like me? My life is full of limitations, of challenges most people can't imagine. I didn't want to believe he was just being kind, but I couldn't let myself hope for more. The first time he told me he loved me, we were sitting in my garden, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. "Maria," he said, his voice steady, I need you to know something. I love you. I froze, my heart racing. Ivan, you don't have to say that. I'm not saying it because I have to, he replied. I'm saying it because it's true. I wanted to believe him.
God, I wanted to.
But love isn't easy, especially for someone like me. My illness is a part of who I am, and it will only get worse. Could Ivan really handle that? Could I? Ivan didn't just knock on my door that first day. He found a way into my heart, though I tried to resist. At first, I told myself it was nothing, just kindness from a young man who wanted to help. But the more time we spent together, the harder it became to deny the truth. I was falling for him. And the most terrifying part? He seemed to be falling for me too. Our days together were filled with small, quiet moments. He'd come by in the mornings with a bag of fresh bread from the village bakery, or spend afternoons fixing things around the house. Sometimes, we'd sit in the garden, talking about everything and nothing. He had a way of making me laugh, of making me forget about my illness and all the things I couldn't do. With Ivan, I felt like a whole person again, not just a collection of limitations. But even as I let myself enjoy these moments, a voice in the back of my mind whispered doubts. Why would someone like Ivan, young, healthy, with his whole life ahead of him, choose someone like me? My illness isn't just a challenge. It's a lifetime of sacrifices, of hardships most people would run from. Could he really be ready for that? It was Anna who first voiced the doubts I was too afraid to admit out loud. Anna is my younger sister, though she's always acted like the older one. She's fiercely protective of me, especially since our parents passed away. When I told her about Ivan, she didn't hide her skepticism. Maria, she said, her voice sharp, you need to be careful. Careful about what? I asked, though I already knew the answer.
About him, she said.
He's young, handsome, and full of life. Why would he choose this? Why would he choose you? Her words stung, but I couldn't deny they echoed my own fears. Maybe he just loves me, I said quietly. Anna scoffed. Love? Love is easy when things are good. But your life isn't easy, Maria. It's only going to get harder. Do you really think he'll stick around when things get bad? I don't know, I admitted. But should I push him away just because I'm afraid? Anna sighed, her frustration evident. I don't want to see you get hurt. That's all. If he's not serious, if he's just playing some kind of savior, then he's going to break your heart. Her words lingered long after she left. I wanted to believe Ivan was different, that his feelings were genuine. But Anna's doubts planted a seed of fear that grew with every passing day. Ivan, of course, noticed the change in me. One evening, as we sat watching the sunset, he turned to me, his brow furrowed. What's wrong, Maria? You've been quiet lately. I hesitated, unsure how to put my fears into words. Finally, I said, do you ever think about what this means? About what loving me really means? He looked at me, his expression serious. Of course I do. I know it won't be easy. But I'm not afraid of that. But you should be, I said, my voice trembling. This isn't just a bad day or a hard week, Ivan. My illness is going to get worse. One day, I won't be able to walk or talk or even move. Do you understand what you're signing up for? I do, he said firmly. And I'm still here. Because I love you, Maria. And I want to be here with you, no matter what. His words warmed me, but the doubt lingered. Could love really be enough to overcome all the challenges ahead? Anna wasn't ready to let it go. Over the next few weeks, she became more vocal about her opposition to my relationship with Ivan. She'd call me daily, her voice sharp with worry. Maria, you have to think about this, she'd say. You're setting yourself up for heartbreak. Maybe, I'd reply. But maybe I'm setting myself up for happiness too.
She didn't see it that way.
To Anna, Ivan was a risk I couldn't afford to take. And the more I defended him, the more determined she became to prove me wrong. One day, Anna showed up at my house unannounced. Her face was flushed with anger, her hands gripping her phone tightly. You need to see this, she said, thrusting the phone into my hands. I stared at the screen, my heart sinking. It was a photo of Ivan with another woman, her arms wrapped around him. The caption read, always helping those in need. Who is she? I asked, my voice trembling. She's one of his exes, Anna said. Another woman with a disability. Do you see now, Maria? He's not in love with you. He's in love with the idea of saving you. I didn't know what to say. Ivan had never hidden his past from me. He'd told me about his previous relationships, about how he wanted to help people who needed it. But now, Anna was twisting it into something ugly, something that made me question everything. Maybe he just cares about people, I said weakly. Or maybe he's using you to feel important, Anna shot back. You need to end this before he hurts you. I shook my head, refusing to believe her. Ivan isn't like that. He loves me. Anna sighed, her expression softening. I just don't want to see you get hurt, Maria. That's all. Her words stayed with me long after she left. I wanted to believe in Ivan, to trust the love we were building. But the fear was growing, and I didn't know how to make it stop. After Anna showed me that photo, the doubt crept in like a shadow I couldn't shake. I wanted to believe Ivan, to trust the love we were building, but Anna's words kept replaying in my mind. Was she right? Was Ivan with me because of my illness, not in spite of it? Was I just a project for him, a way to feel good about himself? Ivan noticed the change in me almost immediately. He always had a way of sensing when something was wrong. One evening, as we sat in the garden, he asked, Maria, are you okay? You've seemed distant. I hesitated, my hands twisting in my lap. Ivan, can I ask you something? Of course, he said, leaning forward. Why are you here? I asked softly. Why do you care about me? He frowned, his brow furrowing in confusion. What do you mean? I've told you I love you. But why? I pressed, my voice trembling. Why would someone like you choose someone like me? My life is hard. My illness, it's not going to get better. Why would you want to stay for that? Ivan reached for my hands, holding them gently. Maria, he said, his voice steady, you're not your illness. Yes, your life is hard, but you're so much more than that. You're kind and funny and strong in ways most people can't even imagine. I'm here because I love you, not because of what you can or can't do, but because of who you are. His words warmed me, but they didn't erase the doubts Anna had planted. I wanted to believe him, but the fear lingered, gnawing at the edges of my heart. Anna, of course, didn't stop at the photo. She was determined to prove that Ivan's intentions weren't genuine. A few days later, she came to my house with a grim expression. Maria, she said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, I need to tell you something. I braced myself, my heart sinking. What is it now? I've been looking into Ivan, she said, pulling out her phone. I found some things you need to know. She showed me a series of online posts, comments Ivan had made in a forum years ago. In one, he mentioned feeling drawn to helping people with disabilities. In another, he spoke about wanting to make a difference in someone's life. Do you see? Anna said, her voice sharp. He's not in love with you, Maria. He's in love with the idea of being a hero. I stared at the screen, my stomach churning. The comments weren't malicious. If anything, they seemed heartfelt. But in the context Anna was presenting them, they felt like evidence of something darker. Was Ivan with me because he loved me? Or was I just another way for him to feel important? Maybe he just cares about people, I said weakly. Or maybe he's using you, Anna shot back. Maria, you deserve someone who loves you for you, not someone who sees you as a charity case. Her words cut deep. I wanted to defend Ivan, to tell Anna she was wrong, but the fear in my heart kept me silent. What if she was right? What if Ivan didn't truly love me? That evening, Ivan came by as usual, his face lighting up when he saw me. Hey, he said, handing me a bouquet of wildflowers. I thought these might brighten your day. I forced a smile, accepting the flowers with trembling hands. Thank you, I said softly. But the doubts were still there, weighing me down. As we sat together in the garden, I couldn't help but ask, Ivan, have you ever thought about why you're drawn to people like me? People with challenges? He tilted his head, his expression thoughtful. I guess I've always been drawn to people who need help, he said. I grew up in an orphanage, surrounded by kids who were struggling. Maybe it's just a part of who I am. His words were honest, even vulnerable, but they didn't erase the fear in my heart. But what if that's the only reason you're here? I asked. What if you're with me, because you feel like you have to be? Ivan's eyes softened. Maria, I'm here because I love you. Not because I have to, but because I want to. If you think I'd stay just out of obligation, you don't know me at all. His words should have reassured me, but the doubts Anna had planted were like thorns, digging deeper with every passing day. Anna wasn't done. The next week, she confronted me with more evidence. This time, it was a conversation she claimed to have overheard in the village. I heard Ivan talking to one of his friends, she said. He called being with you a challenge. A challenge, Maria. Like you're some kind of project for him. Her words stung, and I couldn't stop myself from asking Ivan about it. That evening, as we sat in the garden, I turned to him with trembling hands. Ivan, I said, did you tell someone that being with me is a challenge? He looked surprised, then sighed. I did, he admitted, but not in the way you think. I said that loving you means facing challenges together. And I meant it. Every relationship has challenges, Maria. Yours just happened to be a little different. But that doesn't scare me. It makes me want to fight harder for us. His words eased some of the doubt, but the fear still lingered. Could love really be enough to overcome all the shadows Anna was casting? The days dragged on, heavy with tension. Anna's visits became more frequent, her accusations sharper, her resolve stronger. Each time, she came with something new, another piece of evidence she claimed would prove Ivan wasn't who he said he was. And each time, I felt my heart split further in two. I wanted to believe Ivan, to trust the love we were building, but Anna's words hung over me like a storm cloud I couldn't escape. One afternoon, Anna arrived at my house, her face flushed with determination. Maria, she said, closing the door behind her. You need to listen to me. I sighed, already exhausted. Anna, please. I've heard enough. No, you haven't, she said firmly, pulling out her phone. Look at this. She showed me a photo, grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakably Ivan. He was sitting on a park bench, talking to a young woman. Her hand rested on his arm, and they were both smiling. Do you see this? Anna said, her voice sharp. He's meeting other women. Behind your back. I stared at the photo, my stomach churning. It felt like a punch to the gut. Who is she? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She's his friend, Anna said, her tone dripping with disdain. Or so he says. But do friends touch each other like that? Do they look at each other like that? I didn't know what to say. The photo was damning, but something about it didn't feel right. Ivan had never hidden anything from me. He was always honest, sometimes brutally so. Would he really do something like this? Did you ask him about it? I asked finally. No, Anna admitted. But do you really think he'd tell the truth if I did? Her words made my chest tighten. I hated the doubt she was planting, the way it made me question everything. But I wasn't ready to accuse Ivan without hearing his side. That evening, Ivan came by as usual, his smile as warm as ever. I tried to act normal, but the photo burned in the back of my mind. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Ivan, I said, setting my tea down. Can I ask you something? Of course, he said, leaning forward. Who is she? I asked, pulling up the photo on my phone and handing it to him. The woman in this picture. Who is she? Ivan's expression shifted. Confusion, then realization, then a soft sigh. That's Lena, he said. She's an old friend. We grew up together in the orphanage. And why were you meeting her? I pressed, my voice trembling. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't important, he said gently. She's going through a tough time, and she wanted to talk. That's all it was, Maria. I promise you. I wanted to believe him. His voice was steady, his gaze unwavering. But Anna's words lingered in my mind. Why didn't you tell me about her before? I asked. Because I didn't think it mattered, he said. Maria, I'm here with you, not her. You're the one I love. If I thought for a second it would upset you, I would have told you. His words calmed some of my fears, but the doubt wasn't gone entirely. I wanted to believe him, but the cracks Anna had made were hard to seal. A few days later, Anna came back with something else. This time, it was a conversation she claimed to have overheard. He was talking to Lena again, she said, her voice heavy with accusation. He told her he wasn't sure if he could handle this, your illness, your life. He's doubting everything, Maria. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Are you sure? I asked, my voice trembling. I heard it with my own ears, Anna said. He's not as committed as he says he is. Her words replayed in my mind for hours. Ivan had always seemed so sure, so steady. But what if she was right? What if he was having second thoughts? That evening, when Ivan came by, I couldn't hold back. Ivan, I said, tears in my eyes, are you doubting us? He froze, his expression pained. Maria, where is this coming from? Anna said she heard you talking to Lena, I said. She said you told her you weren't sure if you could handle this. Is that true? Ivan sighed, running a hand through his hair. Maria, he said softly, I did talk to Lena about us. But not because I'm doubting you. I told her how much I love you, how scared I am of messing this up. That's what I said. I'm not doubting us, Maria. I'm doubting myself.
His words hit me like a wave.
You're doubting yourself? I asked. Yes, he said, his voice breaking. Because I'm terrified of failing you. Of not being strong enough to be what you need. For the first time, I saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear he'd been hiding. And in that moment, I realized Anna was wrong. Ivan wasn't doubting me. He was afraid of letting me down. And that fear, that vulnerability, only made me love him more. The days following our conversation were a whirlwind of emotions. Ivan's vulnerability had struck a chord in me, softening the doubts that Anna had planted. He wasn't perfect, no one is, but his love felt real, steady, and honest. Still, Anna wasn't done trying to convince me otherwise. Anna's final attempt came on a cold autumn evening. She arrived at my house unannounced, her face pale and drawn. Maria, I can't let this go, she said, sitting down across from me at the kitchen table. I need you to see the truth. What truth? I asked, weary from her constant accusations. She pulled out her phone and handed it to me. It was a text message thread, screenshots of a conversation between Ivan and someone named Lena. The messages were friendly but vague, discussing challenges, struggles, and the weight of responsibility. Do you see? Anna said, her voice urgent. He's telling her how hard this is. How he's not sure if he can do it. I stared at the screen, my heart sinking. The messages weren't incriminating, but they were enough to stir the doubt I'd been fighting so hard to suppress. Where did you get this? I asked. A friend sent it to me, Anna said. Maria, I'm begging you, don't let him fool you. He's not in this for the right reasons. I handed the phone back to her, my hands trembling. Anna, I said quietly, I appreciate that you're trying to protect me, but you're wrong about Ivan. Am I? She asked, her voice rising. Because everything I've shown you says otherwise. No, I said firmly. Everything you've shown me is twisted to fit your narrative. Ivan has been honest with me from the start.
He's afraid, yes. But so am I.
And that doesn't mean he doesn't love me. Anna stared at me, her expression a mix of frustration and disbelief. You're making a mistake, she said finally, standing to leave. And I just hope you don't get hurt. That evening, Ivan arrived at my door with a serious expression. We need to talk, he said, his voice steady. About what? I asked, my heart pounding. About Anna, he said. She came to see me today. I froze, panic rising in my chest. What did she say? She told me I'm not good enough for you, Ivan said. That I'm using you, that I don't love you. And Maria, I can't let her keep doing this. I'm so sorry, I said, tears welling in my eyes. She thinks she's protecting me, but she doesn't understand. Ivan took my hands in his grip warm and steady. Maria, I love you, he said, his voice trembling with emotion. And I need you to know that nothing Anna says will ever change that. But I also need you to believe it. I do, I whispered. I believe you. The next day, Ivan proved just how serious he was. He arrived at my house early in the morning, dressed in his best shirt and carrying a small velvet box. I stared at him in confusion as he knelt in front of me, his eyes shining with determination. "Maria," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "I've loved you since the moment I met you. You are the strongest, kindest, most incredible person I've ever known. I don't care about your illness or the challenges we'll face. I care about you, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you." He opened the box, revealing a simple gold ring. "Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my face as I looked at him, my heart overflowing with love and hope. "Yes," I said, my voice trembling. "Yes, Ivan, I'll marry you." He slid the ring onto my finger, his hands shaking slightly. Then he pulled me into his arms, holding me as if he never wanted to let go. And for the first time in years, I felt whole. Anna wasn't happy when I told her the news. "You're making a mistake," she said, her voice tight with anger. "You're letting your emotions cloud your judgment." "Maybe I am," I replied. "But it's my mistake to make. And I don't think it is a mistake. Ivan loves me, Anna. And I love him." She didn't say anything after that, just shook her head and walked away. I knew it would take time for her to come around, but for the first time, I didn't let her doubts affect me. I was done doubting. Ivan had proven his love, and I was ready to start our life together. In the weeks that followed, Ivan and I began planning our future. It wouldn't be easy. My illness would see to that, but we were ready to face it together. Love isn't perfect. It's messy and complicated, and it doesn't always make sense. But with Ivan, I've learned that it's worth the risk. Our journey is just beginning, and I know there will be challenges ahead. But for the first time, I'm not afraid. Because with Ivan by my side, I know we can face anything. Together.